Okay, hello friends. We're back with another shiur in Baal Shem Tov ala Torah. This time coming from the holy city of Yerushalayim on a brief trip to Eretz Yisrael, recharging the batteries. So this one is straight from the Holy Land. Okay, so here we go. So we are on Torah Chavav. Hamachavein b'tfilaso b'chol hakavanos heiduaslo. So now we're talking about the idea of a kavana that we have, an intention while we're davening, that is done from a place of the intention to have intention. Not necessarily having a focus on this shame of Hashem or this aspect or that aspect. These are all very holy things to have, but a simple kavana of, I want to express myself. I want to express myself to Hashem. So let's look at the words. It says, Hamachavein b'tfilaso b'chol hakavanos heiduaslo. So when a person is focusing on their davening with all the kavanos that they have, what is he mechavein? To those that he knows. So you know this kavanah, so you're saying this kavanah and not that kavanah, right? So you know and you learned a certain kavanah. So you have that intention. But when a person is simply expressing themselves and they're saying the words from a place of great connection, nichlal b'kol hateva, so included within the word, all the kavanos that were already there. Meaning you're saying already all the kavanos that were there, even if you weren't mechavin them. Why? Because you're saying the word with his kashrus to its source. Shekol os va'os hu olam shalim. Because every word, every letter is even a whole world. When you're saying it, when you're davening it from a place of great connection, bivadai misorivin osan ha'olamos halyonim. So then you're connecting to it from its source in Shemayim. Meaning, what did we say the sources of the words were? Were the building blocks that Hashem created the world with. And you're doing great actions with this. L'chein yira adam, a person should have a focus. Lehispalal b'iskashrus u'b'islavus gedola. To have a big hislavus, a big excitement, and a big connection while davening. Ubevada yaseh bezeh peulos gedolos be'olamos ha'alyonim. Through this, you will do a great impact in all the worlds. Kikol osma orer lamala. So what are we saying here in this piece? Just a few lines. But it's telling us, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh is telling us, the ikar kavana, the main kavana to have, is a kavana to be connected. Is a kavana to say that while I daven, I'm expressing myself to Hashem. And while I say these words, I don't know all the secret codes. I don't know all the kavanas. Saying sometimes you'll see tzaddikim, and it's a very holy thing, with a siddur, like a siddur or a shash that has all these kavanas. So it's saying, so for some tzaddikim, that's the right approach. But Rav Nachman is saying, what the Baal Shem Tov is saying, is that our goal is not to sit with a siddur like that. Our goal is to sit with a simple, basic, regular siddur, but to realize that every word that's written in that siddur is literally the building blocks that Hashem created the world with. And finding myself inside of those words. Now this is an idea. It says Moshe Rabbeinu had there are many times where if you just look at how Moshe carries himself as a leader, how he shepherds Am Yisrael, you can learn amazing skills for leadership. But one of the times, after the Egel Hazav, after the golden calf, where Hashem says to Moshe, you're done with these guys. We'll find you a new people. We'll find you a new group. What does Moshe say? If they're not with me, I'm not interested. Erase me from your book. I'm not interested if they're not here. And what does Hashem do? Hashem accepts. He doesn't get rid of the Jewish people. In fact, he tells us, carry these broken luchos with you. Why? Because sometimes we're all a little broken. And it's a reminder to realize that sometimes we're also full, even when we're broken. That's why we carried the shivrei luchos, the brokenness of the luchos, sat in the Aron Kodesh. In the holiest of holies, they sat in the Kodesh Kodashim. You had the shivrei luchos. Why? To show you that brokenness is also full. And brokenness also belongs in the Kodesh Kodashim. But what did Moshe Rabbeinu say? He said, Macheini na mesifrecha, erase me. So the Berditchever says, the Kedushas Levi says, we see in the next week's parsha that Hashem really did. Moshe said it, Hashem did it. Hashem really did erase him. From the next parsha, it doesn't say the word Moshe. But he says, you think that's a punishment? Adarabah, the opposite. That's not a punishment at all. What did Hashem do when he erased Moshe's name? He said, even Moshe Rabbeinu, such a tzaddik, is drawing from the place of Moshe. Meaning, he's not drawing from the place of Aaron, or from Yoshua, or from Noach, or whatever it might be. So it's when it says Moshe, it means Moshe, not Aaron. It says Moshe, it means Moshe, not Avram. But when it says a love, Vayomer love instead of Moshe, that was the quote-unquote punishment. Vayomer love. Suddenly Moshe is drawing from a place much deeper than just Moshe. He's drawing from a place of Ein Sof. When Moshe stepped up to remove himself from the equation, what did Hashem do? He said, you're right, you removed yourself from the equation. You had such bittul that you were purely drawing from a place of Ein Sof. So when we have a kavanah to say, Hashem, what is my kavanah? My kavanah is to have you, to find you in these words, to find you in my davening, to be connected to you in my davening. It says that's the ikar kavanah. That is the ikar kavanah where you're drawing from the highest place. Okay, now the next piece gives us a little bit of an actual practical meditation to do. So gam im tefillah so tiyazacha brura. So it says a person, even if they're davening in a way that is clear. Bevadai min hahevel hakadosh hayotze mipiv. And you pay attention to the breath that is coming out of your mouth. Yidabek v'yischaber im hevel ha'elyon hadavok alav v'nichnas alav v'tmidus. So we have to go back for a second to say, how did I even get my neshama in the first place? It says in Bereshis v'yipach ba'ap of nishmas chayim that Hashem gave a breath of life to Adam Arishon. So the Baal Tanya writes, what does it mean v'yipach ba'ap of nishmas chayim? He quotes from the Zohar where it says, Man de nafich, mifnim nafich. One who exhales, Hashem exhaled a breath into Adam. One who exhales from within. So right now, take a breath in. So where was that breath from? You felt it coming out from inside of you. So if you felt that breath coming out from inside of you, when Hashem, this is the Baal Tanya writes, right in the beginning of Tanya, he says, how do you know you have a godly soul? Because when God exhaled, and he gave a breath of life quite literally to Adam, the father of all mankind, God blew out a breath from within him, which means that was a part of God. So every breath that we take now in the world is drawing on an aspect of the original breath of life. That's what it says. Yistabik v'yischaber, will become glued to and will connect im hevel ha'elyon, with the breath, the elevated breath. Hadavik alav v'nichnas alav b'smidus. That's it's always going in. K'moshe amur Rabbeinu ala pasuk kol neshama taliyah al kol neshima u'neshima shadam noshin. When it says kol haneshama tahalel ka, that the whole soul will bless God, al kol neshima u'neshima, on every breath. Neshama is neshima. On every breath, what are we doing? With every breath that we take in, we're receiving an aspect of our soul. Just like the original breath that was received, that was given to Adam Arishon directly from Hashem. V'yotze hahevel mimeno mitata le'ila, from below to above. So when you say a word, Baruch Atah Hashem, right? You're in the middle, Modim Anachnu Lach. Whatever blessing it might be, whatever bracha it might be, whatever part of Tefillah it might be, as you express it, what's happening? You're taking the breath that's within you and elevating it to above. Then as it goes up, it comes back down. It's gaval. As it goes up, it comes back down, and then you receive a new breath. And therefore, because it's coming from within you, and you're taking it from within you, and you're focusing that my breath that I am exhaling is going up to its original Shoresh Elyon. Then, when the Shoresh Elyon is coming back into us with every single breath that we take, become Neshima, and receiving more of a consciousness to our soul, because every breath that we take is just a reflection to the original breath. Bivadai, we're going to be able to bring it to our shoresh. So what does this mean as a meditation? The Baal Shem Tov is saying, the meditation here is that every breath that we take, and practice this with the bracha, between every word, take a breath. So you go, Baruch, Atah, and you keep doing that slow, at a time when there's no rush. Between every word, as we said previously, what was the kavanah? Is to take the word Baruch and then elevate it. Imagine, visualize the word, and then elevate it. So you say Baruch, you see the word in your mind's eye, and you elevate it above. Then you breathe, and as you let out a breath, both when you're saying the word and after you breathed, what are you doing? You're bringing it back to its shoresh. So it's an additional kavanah to have as you are davening, to have this kavanah of the breath coming mishoresh alyon. Haneshama amra la'arav. Now we're in the next piece in Kafches. Shema shezacha shenisgalu alav hadvarim halyonim lo mifnei shalaman harbe b'shas u'paiskim harbe. So Baal Shem Tov said it was revealed to him, his soul revealed to him, that everything he accomplished was not due just to learning Shas and Poskim. He did that too. He also learned Torah Senigla. He also learned Shas and Poskim, Gemara, Halacha. Rak mishum tefillah shaya mitpalel tamid b'kavana gedola. But rather, did he say it was revealed to him from? From davening b'kavana, from davening in a way that was with intent. Umisham zachal ma'ala elyoina. He says because of this he was able to accomplish great things through davening b'kavana gedola. And we said what was kavana gedola. We've brought already many kavanas, but we said the beginning of this group of teachings that we're learning today is kavana gedola, is the kavana of I want to be connected to you. I want to reveal within the world of consciousness aspects of my soul. He says through that, Baal Shem Tov said he received in the Aliyas Neshama much more than just from learning Shas and Paiskim. Baal Shem Tov gila she'afal pisha adam mitpala b'dveikus gadol. And now we learn, okay, so Baal Shem Tov just told us that what brought him to these heights, he said, was not just from learning Torah, which we should all do as much as we can, but he said it was from davening with kavanah. But he said even if a person is davening b'kavanah, I believe it was a line from the Kutzker that I read once. Kutzker said, I'm much more comfortable hanging out with someone who's filled with Averis, and he knows that he's filled with Averis, than someone who's filled with mitzvahs and knows very well that he's filled with mitzvahs. I think it was from the Kutzker he said this. Meaning what? Person who has arrogance is already not connected to the Shoresh Elyon. A person who has taivos and messes up, okay, he could also be connected to the Shoresh Elyon. He just messes up. But a person who has a gaiva towards his mitzvahs, that's already very dangerous. The Baal Shem Tov says that even though a person is davening with tefillah, we're not saying someone who's pretending. We're saying someone who's really doing it. Someone who's really b'dveikus davening, who's learning, who's doing things with a chiyas, with a slavos. Mikol makom yizahir shloya sheyelo hachna'a lifnei Hashem yisbarach karoi gam kein. This person should also have achna'a. Should be humble. Should be modest. Now he tells over. Kipam echad ispalal im talmidov b'dveikus gadol. One time the Baal Shem Tov was davening with his students with a lot of dveikus. V'lo haya lehem achna'a v'yakitru gadol milmala. But they weren't davening with humility, with being humble. They knew they were davening geshmak. Rak echad haya mispalel b'hachna'a v'nitzula yedei. So, but there's one person who was davening from a place of being humble, of being modest, of feeling that I'm not there. I want to be there. Heard once a funny line. It says, how do you know if someone's really a chassid? If you ask them, are you a chassid? They say yes. There's a question mark if they're really a chassid. They say, I'm trying. I want to be. I'd like to be. I'm davening to be. I'm doing a spider this every day so I could be. Then such a person, chances are they're a chassid. So what is the Baal Shem Tov saying here? Baal Shem Tov is saying, more than just the danger, saying the danger of doing something with a geschmack and being very pleased that you're doing it with a geschmack. Doesn't mean we shouldn't be feelings of content. We should be content. We should have an acknowledgement to when we're accomplishing something spiritually. But at the same time, if it gives a person a sense of gaiva, a sense of arrogance, then it can be a very dangerous place to be in. And he says, because mechmas shetpalalu imaran, says, what was their gaiva? Is that they were davening with the Baal Shem Tov. So this chevra were like, we get to hang out with the Baal Shem Tov. That's what their gaiva was. Not just that they were davening, but their gaiva was, the parish says, their gaiva was that they got to hang out with the Baal Shem Tov. And they were like, we're going to achieve these great heights, right? Even more than necessarily the place that their kalim were ready to handle. And that brought them to a place of gaiva. Reminds me of a story maybe 15 years ago. I was in Yerushalayim and someone asked me, there was going to be a minyan. Rav Tzvi Meyer was going on a little vacation, which that meant that he left where he was on Chov Chana, I think it was, to maybe 10 minutes away, to just have a little quiet and to learn peacefully somewhere. And so someone in the yeshiva I was learning asked, we're putting together a minyan. Someone asked me to bring a few guys over and to daven ma'ariv there. So you should have a minyan, but he didn't want to do it with the chassidim. He wanted it to be some other chevra there. So then I got very excited about it. So I was like, I'd love to go. I was very excited to be able to daven in this quiet minyan right next to Tzvi Meyer. And the guy was like, no. He specifically said they want guys that aren't excited to come. So what does that mean? That's what this means. It means that there's a place where you're not excited to be davening next to a tzaddik, where that becomes your avodah. It's a very fine teaching. What does this mean, fine? Very specific. It means that we should be looking to tzaddikim for inspiration. But there can sometimes be a gaiva. You can sometimes have a gaiva of being next to a tzaddik. And what the Baal Shem Tov says is that gaiva could make a big kitrug. So what is this piece saying? This piece in Chav Tes was saying, because there was one person in the room there with the Baal Shem Tov who was just focused on expressing himself to Hashem. There was one person in the room. Everybody else was focused and fired up that they got to be in the room with the Baal Shem Tov. And that made a kitrug. But there was one person there who was saying, Kavalt, I get to be next to my Rebbe. That wasn't his focus. His focus was, I get to speak to Hashem. I get to talk to the Eibishter. And that was mataking the whole kitrug. Okay, now one last piece. It says, the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said, sometimes a person is learning, and he sees a hisayrus, he sees enlightenment in what he's learning. Even though he's not necessarily understanding what he's doing. But because he's saying it from such a place of love and connection, so it gives him a hisayrus. Hashem is not being medaktek with him. Did you say it exactly right? It's like the famous teaching about the Oyev Yisrael, who said you could find Ahavas Yisrael in every single parsha. He says you can find the Ahavas Yisrael in every parsha. That's why it's called the Oyev Yisrael. So he says Parshas Balak. Where do you find the Ahavas Yisrael? He says Parshas Balak. It says it right in the parsha. Balak, look at the Reish Tevis, look at what the word spell. Balak spells V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. So what does someone say? Someone says Balak doesn't spell that. V'ahavta is with a vav, not a beis. L'recha lam, it's fine. And kamocha is with a chaf, not a kuf. So the Ohev Yisrael looks at him and he says, now you got it. When it comes to Ohev Yisrael, you can't be so medakdek. When it comes to loving other Jews, you can't be so nitpicky on things. Okay, that's a beis, that's a vav, beseder. That's a chaf, that's a kuf, beseder. That's good too. You can't be so nitpicky when it comes to Ohev Yisrael. And this is exactly what it's saying of what Hashem does to us. What does Hashem do to us? He's not looking, being medakdek. Did you say that word exactly right? Did you pronounce that nakuda exactly in the proper way? There's an aspect of, I'm just happy you're here. There's an aspect where Hashem just says, I'm just happy you showed up. And he gives a mashal. It's like when a young child says to their parent, saying that a child comes to the father, even if he doesn't say it correctly. What does it matter that your kid didn't say it correctly? Your kid asks you for something. Your kid says thank you. Your kid asks you for something. You're just happy to be talking to your kid. You care that your kid didn't say it grammatically correct. So when a person is saying things from a place of love and connection, Hashem is not looking to see, did you say it, pronounce it exactly right? That's not the focus. The focus is you came here with an open heart. Right, that you're passing on ahava. It says al tikri vidaglu ella vilaglugo, laglugo from his mouth. Ale ahava, it's bringing up love, meaning what? That when a person is focusing on their davening and their learning from a place of love and connection, Hashem is not being medakdek with them. So let's go back to the first piece. The first piece we said tonight was, what is the ikar kavana? The ikar kavana is that I'm having kavana. The ikar kavana is, Hashem, I want to talk to you. Hashem, I want to have a relationship with you. That's the ikar kavana. Then the second piece was the meditation on the breath work. The breath work of every single word you're saying, you're having in mind that I'm expressing from the original breath of Adam Arishon. Every breath I take in is an aspect of that breath, and every breath I let out is an aspect of that breath. And to go back, to listen again to that part where we focus on the meditation, to do that again, and to really implement that into your davening. And to remember to be very careful to have hachna'ah and anivos within our davening. To show up to Hashem from a place of humbleness and humility, and through that, the simplicity of showing up with love and hava. There's one last story and then we'll wrap up. There was one time Reb Zusha was learning together with some of the other Chassidim, rabbis. I believe it was the Magid, started teaching. And they got there and they said, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor. And Reb Zusha couldn't handle it. He went nuts. He says, you know what that means? Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor? Do you know what that means? The rest of the Chet was like, let the Maggid get to it. Let him get to like what we're learning about. This is just like the intro here. Hashem said to Moshe. He says, you know what that means? That Hashem, the creator of the world, spoke to Moshe. He spoke to a person, a holy person like Moshe, but he spoke to a person. And Reb Zusha couldn't handle it, and he was going nuts from this. To the point where they had to like escort him from the room to calm down a little bit. But what's the idea? That's a simple kavanah. Saying, how many times in life do we just pass through a pasuk, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor, as a means of introduction to get to the part that the parsha is talking about? It says, no, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor, to look at it and say, what does that mean? It means that Eibishter is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. It means that Hashem's speaking to Moshe. What does it mean to be a Moshe Rabbeinu? What does it mean to have Hashem talk to you? Then you're starting to really do what this is saying. That's the Nakuda. When you can learn a pasuk, Vayomer Hashem al Moshe Lemor, and it can impact you, then you're learning it right. My brother-in-law told me he was davening in a minyan this Shabbos, and when they got up to the part that Nadav and Avihu passed away, the Baal Korei started to cry. You think this guy hasn't read the parsha before? He's read the parsha before. That's what it means to come with an open heart. That's what it means. Okay, so Hashem should bless us. We should have an open heart. We should be completely saturated with simcha when we're davening. But it should all be from a place of anava and hachna'ah. Okay, shkaya.